Hey friends, welcome to a special bonus episode of the 1 Minute Scripture Study podcast. Now, this is October, which is one of the greatest months of the year. And so I thought that since it's one of my favorite months, I would share some of my other favorite things with you. I love it when people share great things that they found with me, and I don't have to go researching and figuring things out for myself. So today I wanted to share with you some great things I found that I hope you will find useful. Now, if you are listening, I am actually recording this as a video, and I am going to have some awkward pauses. I've got one going on right now while I try and find the presentation that I made for this. Yes, I made a presentation. I wanted to have visuals for this. It's so important to me. But October is one of my favorite months, and I have to be honest that it's a little bit embarrassing, but one of the reasons it's one of my favorite months is because of Halloween, but not just because of Halloween, but because I get to watch the movie Halloween Town, which if you've never heard of it, I don't blame you. Okay. It came out in the late 90s. I was already like in high school. This shouldn't have even been on my radar, but I watched this movie and I just love it. I think it's because I don't like the horror movie and the gross part of Halloween, but I do love the sweet part of Halloween. And this movie is just everything that is sweet and good and clean about Halloween. So this October, I am forcing 3 of my nieces and my sister-in-law to do a Halloween Town watch party with me. Like, that's how much I love it. So it's also the month when peanut butter was patented back in 1884. It's the month when we get to eat Reese's pumpkins. Those are so good. We also get to hear from Elder Holland in General Conference. And it is the time of year when the New Mexico, the Albuquerque Balloon Fiesta happens. And that is my dream, to go to that. Oh my goodness. If anyone lives in Albuquerque and wants to let me hang out with them for a week while I go to the balloon fiesta, let me know. So anyway, those are the reasons that October is one of my very favorite months of the year. And now let's get into other favorite things that I found recently that I wanted to share with you. Okay, my very favorite podcast episode that I have listened to lately, and it's so funny because I am a podcaster, but I don't tend to listen to too many podcasts. I listen to some business ones, but I actually don't listen. I listen to my own. Honestly, I use it with my kids for our scripture study a lot of the time, but I don't listen to a lot of other podcasts. But I recently listened to Awesome with Allison Faulkner. Awesome lady. She is so fun and so vibrant. But her episode number 120 was with Lexi Kite. And actually, I think it was with Lexi. I don't think it was Lindsay. But it was called Building Body Image Resilience Through Thick and Thin with Beauty Redefined. And this episode was phenomenal. Anything that Lexi and Lindsay Kite do, I think is phenomenal. And if you are not aware of who they are, I would highly suggest checking them out on Instagram at Beauty Redefined. They are so great. They're twin sisters who are members of the church, but the work that they do is totally secular. It's all based on their studies that they did for their PhD program. And they have this nonprofit that is trying to help women to see themselves as more than bodies, and to see themselves, their bodies, not as an instrument, as an instrument, not as an ornament. So basically as something to be used to do good things rather than just as something for people to look at like an ornament. And this episode was so great. Allison shared some of the damaging things that happened in her childhood, even though people were trying to be kind and trying to help her, damaging things that happened to her. And Lexi really dove in deep there with her, and she just shared some truly wonderful things. And so if you struggle with body image, if you know any females in the world, they probably do struggle with body image in some way, or know someone who has. I would highly suggest this episode. I think it is so good. And it just shines a light on what the real issues are, and on how women could do so many amazing things if we just let go of all the time we spend on trying to look a certain way. So highly recommend that. That is my favorite podcast episode I've listened to recently. Awesome with Allison, episode number 120. Okay. Now, my favorite gospel book, this one has not changed. I just love this book. And I think it's because I love teenagers and tweenagers so much. I love these youth in the church. And I think that one of the hard things that happens when you are a youth in the church and you're trying to gain a testimony is when someone says something based on history, or they find some scientific fact that refutes the authenticity of the Book of Mormon. And you kind of go, ugh. Now, as an adult, I've gotten beyond that. Like, I don't care what anyone says. I've got my testimony. I'm fine. But I remember as a teenager, when my testimony was still a little bit new and it was still growing, it was really hard when I heard things that made me second guess my testimony, which is why I love this book. It's the little book of Book of Mormon Evidences by John Hilton III, who I had on the podcast, and I think he's wonderful. But this is, like it says, it's a little book. It's short, but it has all of these awesome little facts. I'm not being very clear, but it has all of these little facts and little bits of evidence from science and from history and from poetry and literature and all these things that prove that the Book of Mormon is true. And like he says in the book, this is not what your testimony is going to be based on. He's not like, this is your proof, now you have a testimony. He points out that this is great scaffolding to have while you're building a testimony. So I personally think this book would be such a great book to give to maybe a young man when he enters into young men, when he receives the priesthood, or when a girl turns 11 and she's going into young women. I think that would be an awesome time to give this book to one of them. And I think actually, if you subscribe to Deseret Bookshelf, if you pay for that app, then you might have access to this for free. But totally worth it. Great book. It has been at the top of my list for a really long time, and I highly recommend it. Okay, number 3. Oh my goodness, you guys! Like I can't even. With this one, I just can't even. This is my favorite gospel resource I have found in a really long time, and it is called Drawn In by David Bowman. And I love David Bowman. Oh my goodness gracious. I have loved his art forever. He, if you don't know him, he has these, I can't remember what it's called, but it's like images of Christ or something. One of his that he had called Security, just, it mended my heart, I guess I could say. When my OCD was at its worst and I was feeling so alone, it's this beautiful picture of Christ hugging a child. And I just felt like, oh, I loved that image. I wish that child was me, you know? And I have loved his books. Those should be on this list, but they're not. His books, his Who's Your Hero and The Planet of Happiness. And he's got awesome cartoon type books for kids, which have entertained my kids during sacrament meeting for the last 4 years. They do not get tired of them. And then guess what David Bowman goes and does? He starts this video and with like paper, PDF, handouts and stuff, subscription that follows Come Follow Me. And he is awesome. It's 2 videos a week. And my kids beg to do scripture study now. They love it. And he, if you don't know David Bowman, he has a long history of working in CES. I worked with him. He was my session director at EFY. He is a great teacher, but it is the funnest, is funnest a word? Probably not, but it's the funnest way that I've ever experienced studying the scriptures. He is so great at bringing humor in, but then also knowing when to pull it back and when to really dive in deep to the scriptures and get into principles and change your heart. And he's showing the kids how to mark their scriptures, and he's showing them how to find a principle and which verses to mark, because which ones are power verses. It is the best thing that's ever happened to my family. And as of the time of this recording, it's ridiculously cheap. I think I'm paying $5 a month. Like, that is like a burrito or something. I don't know. That's like even less than a Chipotle burrito. And it is totally revolutionizing the way that my kids approach the scriptures. They love them. So, and I actually am having David on in January on the podcast to talk about how we can dive into Doctrine and Covenants, because it's hard to dive into scriptures when there's no storyline. So if you want to check that one out, I'm actually including the links for all of these in the description box below. But his is davidbowmanart.com. And again, the subscription is so cheap, but so worth it. And when you subscribe, you have access to all of the back videos, all the ones he's already done. So we started at the beginning and we still haven't even gotten back up to speed, but we are just loving it. So favorite gospel resource of the decade. All right. Now, this one is not gospel-y at all, but I have some really high standards for what I will watch and what I will read. And it is really, really, really hard for me to find clean books. And I know that, like, for my niece, I have a 14-year-old niece, and she loves to read, but it's hard for her to find good books. And so I read this book. I can't even remember which one was the first one I read, but there's this series called The Four Kingdoms by Melanie Sellier. And it is a retelling of all of these old fairy tales, but it interweaves all of them so that everyone is part of kingdoms that are related to each other. It's very in-depth and fun. And there's there's 3 series of it now, and they all flow together. So it's like 10 books or 12 books or something, and they are completely clean. They are so clean, so beautifully done. And it's not Jane Austen. Okay, guys, it's not. It's not like I'm reading C.S. Lewis. I'm not getting tons smarter from reading it. But if you are looking for something super clean for yourself or for a girl in your life, I highly recommend these. If you get a Kindle Unlimited subscription, these are on there for free. And that's what I used. And you can also get them. Oh, why didn't I mention this? If you don't know about the app Libby, it's a library app and you can get free books on there. They also have the audiobooks on Libby as well. So highly recommend these. Totally clean, super fun. And there's like 10 of them to keep you busy. All right, let's see. Oh, you guys, I keep on saying I'm sharing my favorite thing, but like everything on here is my favorite. I'm so excited to share all these with you. This has been another favorite. I signed up my 12-year-old son for Family Tech University, their workshop. And what this is basically like driver's ed for using the internet and having a cell phone. And Emily Jones, oh my goodness, bless Emily Jones. I haven't yet had a chance to meet her husband, Dave. I'm sure he's wonderful. But Emily Jones gets these teenagers. She has many boys and at least one daughter, and has been helping prepare them for cell phones and for technology for years now. And she actually created this course in kind of like baby form for her own family. And people kept asking her for copies of what she had done. And she realized, you know what? People need this. People need something to help prepare their kid for the internet. And she has such great trust in our teenagers. I think this is the best part of it, is that she believes in helping your teen or tween to build their internal filter, because it's the only one that's going to work in the end, right? And so the course goes into building that internal filter. It talks about how much time you spend on the internet and what kind of games you play and what pornography is and how you handle that. And it just goes into all of these wonderful, wonderful topics. And the kid does it on their own, which is my favorite part, because I'm like, I don't have time for that. And so your kid does it on their own, but then you also get an email saying what your kid has been doing. And there are parts of the course where your kid is prompted, hey, go talk to your mom or dad about this. And so it opens up opportunities for great conversations that you might not even realize that you need to have with your teenager. So if you want to check that one out, it is familytechuniversity.com. Again, all of the resources are going to be linked down below. And that is it. I was just trying to click and find another slide, but that is it. I love these resources. I'm not being paid by anyone to say these things. I just absolutely believe in them. I know that they can help your family and that they can bless your lives. And I hope that you will be able to use some of them. If you have a great resource that you would suggest for parents or for moms, I would love to hear about it. Let me know. Find me on Instagram. My Instagram handle is Kristen Walker Smith. Find me there and let me know, what is your favorite thing that you have found recently that you wish everyone knew about? Because I would love to hear it. All right. Thanks so much for being here with me today, guys. And again, find those links down in the description notes, and I will see you later. Bye.